What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and you're tuned in to Screenheads TV, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things appearing on your movie and your TV screens. In this episode, I'm going to give my review of American Gods Season 1, Episode 2, of The Secret of Spoons. And man, was this a good one. The episodes just keep getting better. I'm so excited for this show. It's amazing, isn't it? I know you guys are loving it. Come on. All right. The synopsis for this episode reads, as Mr. Wednesday begins recruitment for the coming battle, Shadow Moon travels with him to Chicago and agrees to a very high-stakes game of checkers with the old Slavic god Zernabog, played by the fantastic Peter Stormare. You'll know him from various Coen Brothers movies, such as Fargo. He's the pancake guy. And the Big Lebowski. He's one of the nihilists. So tons of other stuff, especially in like the 80s and 90s, that era. He's really in a lot of things, and he's always fantastic. But this is the best I've ever seen him. Cloris Leachman is also in this episode as an old god. I do not recall her name, but I think she's like part of like a three witches kind of deal, because there's two sisters who all seem to have magical abilities, fortune reading and all that. And, she does mention that, they're not worshipped anymore, blah, blah, blah. So I believe that they are some sort of, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to do a whole video about the different gods and everything, probably a series of videos. And I'll get into that a little bit more. She's not a big part of the episode, so it's not like I'm really missing anything huge. But, she's wonderful in it, Cloris Leachman. All right, so the main story arc, like the synopsis really says, it's a road trip. It's Mr. Wednesday, and the first half of the episode is Mr. Wednesday and Shadow Moon on a road trip to Chicago. They do make a stop along the way, which we meet another interesting new god. Last week we met Mr. What was it? Technological Boy. We met last week. Great name. And then this week we meet Media, the goddess Media, played by the fantastic Gillian Anderson. Again, one of the better performances I've ever seen from her. So kudos to, to the writing and the acting. All right. I'll get into the specifics on that in a minute. And then they finally make it to Chicago, which is where they find Cloris Leachman and Peter Stormare, Zernabog. And Mr. Wednesday is trying to get him to come with them for some big meeting, I guess, of all the old gods, because they're preparing for battle against all of the new gods. Now, this isn't really spelled out for you in this episode, but it's there. Okay, so that's basically the main story arc, and then we have a little subplot again with Bilquist, the goddess of, I don't know what she's the goddess of. I forgot to look it up. I meant to, too. It's on my list. Like love or sex or something like that. You see how she devours her worshippers, right? So we get a small, not, I can't even call it a subplot. We get just like last week, a small section of scenes with Bilquist. And once again, I'll get to that in a minute. All right, so the themes, the main idea of this one. All right, so it's really about Shadow trying to accept the weirdness that he's coming across. And if you notice on Shadow's shirt is the buffalo. The logo for the motel is a buffalo, which he saw the buffalo with the flaming eyes. That's off topic. I'm sorry. So the theme of it, the main idea is really about Shadow trying to come to grips with what's going on, and whether, trying to figure out whether or not he's going crazy or, this is all real. And it doesn't get any easier for him in this episode. I think by the end of the episode, he's embraced it a bit more, just like he did at the end of the first episode, embraced it a bit more, but he's still not there yet, and I think we're going to see that throughout Season 1, or at least the first half of Season 1. I think we're going to see with that struggle of, am I crazy, or is this hammer really bleeding, Because there's moments of that in this episode, too, where he's very confused by what's going on around him. All right, so let's talk about that opening scene for a minute with what's his name? Orlando Jones. Fantastic. I mean, you're watching it going, what the hell is going on? This is obviously in hundreds of years ago, 400 or 500 years ago, and he's wearing a suit from like the 60s or something, or even present day. I don't really know. His hair is from like the 50s or 60s. So he's obviously able to travel through time. Now his character is Mr. Anansi, or Mr. Nancy in this show. So the god is Anansi, and he's like the god of death. I believe it's like an African god. So he, I believe, will be more of an antagonistic role. But I love what they're doing with these opening scenes. Is they're kind of giving us bits of history of America, but also mixed with gods. So in the first one, we had the Vikings and their god Odin, and it was about that. And now this one, we have the African tribesmen who were brought over as slaves, and worshiping their god of Anansi. I love this. And it's a great way to introduce us to each god, even if they're not specifically important in that episode. Like Mr. Nancy is not important in this episode whatsoever, but it introduces us to him. And I love the whole speech. Was amazing how he's basically telling these guys, this is your future in America. After this boat ride, this is what's going to happen. So why not go up there and slit all these necks upstairs? And I love it. It was a great opening scene. Great dialogue, great speech, great performance all around. Can't go wrong with it. All right. Now, the main character episode arc, we are only dealing with Shadow Moon. And it looks like, from the looks of it, Shadow Moon is going to be our focus throughout the whole entire, at least first season. So it doesn't look like we're going to get very much story that doesn't include Shadow Moon. Okay? All right. So we have some great stuff with him and Mr. Wednesday, where he gets patched up in the beginning. He goes to Mr. Wednesday's room and sees the young girl in there. Well, not a young girl, but the young woman in there. And, he gives him props for that later. Like, you didn't do so bad last night. That kind of just gives you a sense of Ian McShane's character and who he is. And I just love it. He plays this old man who seems, like an angry old man at one point, and then, like the loving grandfather at another point. And, he's wise beyond understanding, you know what I'm saying? Like, he seems like he knows a lot more than he's letting on, which I'm sure he does. But I just love it. The performances in this show are amazing. I'm going to continue to say that no matter how annoying I get. All right, yeah, so all right, they make their first stop to get some supplies. And Shadow Moon is getting some stuff. They're like gifts for Zernabog and the witches or whatever. And Shadow first encounters the goddess Media, played by Gillian Anderson, in the form of Lucille Ball as Lucy Ricardo. Really head trippy, but it awesomely done. And it's amazing how much Gillian Anderson actually looked like Lucille Ball. Those of you who read the book, let me know in the comments below if that's from the book, the Lucille Ball stuff. I loved it. It was great. Gillian Anderson was awesome. I think one of her best performances. This show shines when it comes to performances and writing. And directing, cinematography. It really does shine when it comes to the production value that we're getting each week. Really does. So then we get her, and she's kind of, I guess, like Technological Boy, just trying to let Shadow know who they are, but she seemed to be wanting to recruit him, where Technological Boy was kind of just showing him who was boss. And I like Gillian Anderson's approach and the way she tells Shadow Moon how they get their power. And it's very subtle, and I didn't pick it up until my second watch. She basically tells him that lamb's blood isn't necessary anymore. Sacrificing a lamb or a virgin, it's not necessary anymore. Now people sacrifice their time, their attention, their family, their money for Media. And that's how she gets her power. Amazing. This show is awesome. I love it so much. I feel like my head's going to explode. All right. So, yeah, and then we get them getting to Chicago, where they go to meet Zernabog, who's got like this sledgehammer. And Peter Stormare is not only fantastic in this role, but he's scary and funny at the same time. Very similar to his role in Fargo, to where he makes you laugh one minute and then the next minute you're like, oh man, this guy is scary and unpredictable, and I don't know what he's going to do next. And that's how I felt with Zernabog. There's a point in time where I thought he was going to try and kill everybody. You know what I mean? And really well done. And the way he goes and explains who he is, and like how he's like a god of death also, like a destruction kind of god, similar to Mr. Nancy, I guess. And he, now that he's not worshipped and not in power, and he can't just kill people at will anymore, and he's not strong, he's got to resort to killing, like, cattle and livestock. And he even talks about the way that that's done, that it's different from when he first came to America, how where you used to have to be tough and strong, and you use a sledgehammer, and now they just whatever noise he does, it's so good and creepy, and just it gives you such a great atmosphere, his character and his unpredictable nature. I really enjoyed it. And then we have the chess scene, which was absolutely fantastic. They basically make a bet where if Shadow Moon wins in checkers, Zernabog will go with them to this meeting, as Mr. Wednesday asks. If he loses, then Zernabog gets to smack Shadow Moon over the head with his hammer and kill him. Right here. So good. All right, so we don't get to see how that plays out because, of course, in great serial television fashion, it cuts off before the end, where we'll probably pick off right from there in the next week. So, will he get hit? All right, here's how I feel. Part of me feels like he's going to get hit in the head, but he's got some sort of power or some sort of strength to him that we don't know about yet. And he's going to withstand it, live through it, whatever. And then part of me says he's going to win, and Zernabog is just going to have to come along with them. I really want to see Peter Stormare go with them on this road trip. I really, really, really want to see that. Not because I'm such a big fan of Fargo. Well, not only because I'm such a huge fan of Fargo, but also because I think the dynamic between the three of them is going to be really fun to watch in an enclosed space like a car for a long period of time. So that's pretty much it where we get, for the whole episode, and it was really well handled, the writing and everything. So side character arc is Bilquist again, and they don't really tell us anything, and there isn't even really dialogue in her scenes. I don't think there's any dialogue for that matter. So whereas last week we saw how she devours her prey, her worshippers, whatever, how she gets her power or maintains her power by being a prostitute and devouring these people in a strange and fun way. Let's just say that. Let's try to be as family friendly as we can by talking about a show that really isn't very family friendly, right? So we see her devour a number of victims in this one, and in the same fashion, men and women alike. And we also see her go and visit in like a museum. So it's like an old relic, an old statue of, I would imagine, her, where it's like a, I wouldn't call it a sexy statue, but it's in a sexy pose where it's like holding its boobs and stuff. And it's obviously her and the way people used to worship her. And she goes over this case that has like ancient jewelry in it. And then she does this weird thing where it's like a shape of her comes up from under the jewelry, and it looks like she's wearing it all throughout her body. It's like ancient sexy lingerie is how I would describe it, but it's jewelry. It's made out of like gold. And it was really weird because I thought she was going to take it, and I'm wondering why is she, it was like she was trying it on, like seeing what she would look like with it on. It was a very strange scene. I didn't really know what to make of it, but it's obvious that she's an old god who's longing for those old times where she was at her height, the height of her power. I don't think she enjoys having to, I don't know why I get that feeling, but the way they always show her laying in bed afterwards, I don't think she, and this one it looked like she had a tear running down her face. So I don't think she enjoys the way she has to go about keeping her power. but she's forced to because people no longer worship her. I just love this show. It's so good. I'm going to say that after every talking point, I think. All right, so the meaning of the title, it was rough for me on this one, The Secret of Spoons. I couldn't think of anything other than the song that Zernabog sings. There's an actual line in it, The Secret of Spoons. And I watched the episode twice, and I tried to really pay attention to the song. I just really didn't catch it. So after I watch it maybe a few hundred more times, I'll get the meaning of it, and then I'll do a video just about that title meaning. I'm sure it holds deeper meaning than just being a line from that song. I'm sure it does. So I'll do the research on that one, and hopefully I'll come up with something for a future video. The episodes stand out. I'm gonna, even though everybody's fantastic, this episode I'm gonna give to Peter Stormare just because he was absolutely wonderful. I was glued to the screen for his scenes. I mean, I'm glued for the whole show, but especially glued for his scenes. He was terrifying and funny, likable and unlikable all at once. It was a really weird character, and to me, like I said in my review of the first episode, he very Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Twin Peaks-esque. So, yeah, definitely Peter Stormare Zernabog was a standout for me. As far as production standout goes, I'm going to say, even though everything was fantastic, this one I'm going to give to the writing. Yeah, I'm going to say that it was just really well written. The performances also were fantastic, and the cinematography was great, but the writing, the directing too, this one is going to be a close call for me. Just from Cloris Leachman's facial actions, I know that's the performance too, but I got to give some of that to the directing, and it was just really, really well directed and acted. So I'm going to give it to both of them this week. And my favorite moment of the entire episode was the Gillian Anderson stuff. I loved it. I absolutely loved getting introduced to the media, the way they did it, and the way they introduced it in her dialogue, her performance, all great. I really, really enjoyed. I would give her the episode standout if Peter Stormare wasn't so fantastic. But that scene was my favorite thing in the episode. My least favorite thing? Oh, man. I don't think I have a least favorite thing. I loved everything about this episode. Yeah, no least favorite thing. Alright, so my final rating on this episode, there was really no action, so I definitely won't give it a perfect rating, but I'm going to give this one a solid 4.4 out of 5, which is really good. I'll give it a 4.5. Erase it. 4.5 out of 5. Really good episode. Solidly acted and directed. It did lack in action. If it had more action in this episode, or any at all, I would have maybe given it a perfect score. But once again, American Gods does not fail to deliver. So far, episode 2 is even better than episode 1, and in some ways it was better, in some ways it wasn't. We had action in episode 1 when we didn't in this, but it's still it was more enjoyable for some reason, somehow. It was an enjoyable episode just as much, or not, if not more, than the first one. Even if I didn't give it the same rating. You have to understand how I do my ratings. I try and pick apart everything about the episode. And sometimes, even though one episode may have a better rating, it doesn't. It may be only because of action or because of a certain character or whatever. So there's many factors that come into the way I rate. So take that for what you will. Fantastic episode. I'm really enjoying this show and the way the story is unfolding. I'm so excited for the next episode. I think I'm going to start doing predictions on this show as well. So look out for the predictions videos for this one. Yep. Love the episode. 4.5 out of 5. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you thought about the episode down below. American Gods, season 1, episode 2. Let me know what you think about this video, my review in general. I changed up the format a little, which is making them a little bit longer, but I think I'm giving you guys a better watching experience. But you let me know down below if you think I should shorten them or whatever you think. Wow, I sound like a 14-year-old boy there. Or whatever, okay? Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, help out the channel, help YouTube understand that you guys actually like this content. They need more than views to understand that. I don't need more than views. The views are enough to let me know, but I want to let YouTube know that you guys like me, so they play my stuff and recommend it more. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. As always appreciated. You guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.